Okay. So I'm gonna do a poem just as an intro to this chapter of Tanya. Okay. Everything in Torah is a lesson for me and you. This includes the name of the parsha too. Emor is a command to speak in a gentle way. What type of speech should we speak plenty of every day? So this week's Torah portion is Parshas Emor, and the beginning of the parsha is Emor ala Kohanim, but the name of the parsha is just Emor. So it's a lesson for everyone, not just for Kohanim. Emor means to speak. What kind of speech are we supposed to speak a lot of? Emor doesn't refer to learning Torah because we already have the V'dibarta Bam mitzvah. In Pirkei Avos, we learn that usually we are meant to minimize our speech. But in this case, something new the Rambam comes to teach. Okay, so Emor, it can't be Torah, speak words of Torah, and usually it's Emor Ma'at V'asar Beis, speak a little and do a lot. So what is it? Emor, it's a command. What kind of speech are we commanded to speak plenty of? Okay, so when speaking about a Yid who did something wrong and did fall, a Talmud Chacham should speak favorably about him and not criticize him at all. Not criticizing another Jew applies to everyone. So why does the Rambam state this when speaking about a Talmud Chacham? Okay, so the Rambam has in Perek, there's Perek Hey of the Rambam and Perek Vav of the Rambam. Perek Hey is talking about a Talmud Chacham, and Perek Vav is talking about all the rest of the Yidden. And when speaking about a Talmud Chacham, he says that a Talmud Chacham should speak favorably about a Yid and not criticize him at all. So why the words and not criticize him at all? Why is that when you're talking about Talmud Chacham? That should be in the next parak when talking about all the Yidden. Okay. Tanya teaches us that we can judge favorably in every case when we realize that what made them sin is their circumstances and their place. What's the pasuk? Yeah, thank you. Don't judge someone until you're in their place. It's their place that's causing them to sin. Like if they have to be on Wall Street in Manhattan, or if they have to be in working with, working in business, working with other people, whatever it is, that their place, their circumstances is what's causing them to fall. So don't judge a person until you're in their place or until you're in their shoes. Not only does one need to remove any blame from their mind, a zechus, a merit for the Jew who sinned, one must find. But then there's another pasuk that says in Pirkei Avos, "Vehevei dan es kala adam lekaf schos." You have to judge everyone. We translate in English favorably, but really the word is schos. Zechus comes from the word zach, which means pure, and a merit. So here you have this is a situation. The person fell. He did an aveira. Not only can't you blame him because of mekaymai, because of his place that caused him to sin, but you have to find a schos. You have to find something pure about him. So how do you look at this Jew? Hashem only gives a person what they can handle. So if the person faces great challenges, he must have strength that is so powerful. To overcome his challenge that is so great, his potential is top rate. Okay, so this is the answer.
This is where we ended up last week when we were having a discussion.
Remind me.
About judging people favorably and realizing that their sign is different. And I was saying that that's what it says in Parak Lamed of Tanya or something.
Yeah.
About judging favorably and not being judgmental.
Okay, so here's one step further. If you see a person that has a lot of challenges in their life and they sinned, when you look at them, what you should say is, wow, if this person has such a great challenge, then they must have that much power to overcome it, because everything Hashem does is an equal balance. So they're probably on a higher level than me, because I don't have this challenge.
Actually, I guess it kind of says it the other way, that just to judge unfairly, meaning they have such a challenge. If you were there, you wouldn't either. They would too, instead of like He's saying, recognizing their greatness because they have so much strength.
Right. So I said this, I don't know if I said this here last time, but there's this, I don't know if I said it last time, but I say this often. There was an individual who was becoming closer to Yiddishkeit, and his Chabad Rebbe was encouraging him, okay, so just, it's time to be Shem Torah mitzvahs completely. So he said, I have a deep, dark secret, and this is what's holding me back. I'm engaged to a non-Jewish girl, and therefore I can't fully commit to Yiddishkeit. So the rabbi said to him, why don't you go to the Rebbe? So he said, it's not going to help. My parents took me to many rabbis. Anything anyone says, I can't break up with her. So he finally came to the Rebbe, and he told the Rebbe, what should I do? I want to fully embrace, fully be Shem Mitzvahs, but I'm engaged to this non-Jewish girl. And the Rebbe said to him, I'm jealous of you. And when he heard that, it gave him the strength to break it off. What was the Rebbe telling him? You're amazing. If you have such a big nisayon, then you have so much potential. Like the Rebbe would never have this nisayon, obviously, right? So this incredible nisayon comes with incredible power. So when you look, usually you would say, okay, I can't blame him. It's not his fault. Usually it's not his fault. This was his education. This is how he grew up. And if I was in his place, who knows where I would be? That's what we know until now. But here is even a higher level, because this parak that we're going to learn now is for the Russia, right? Soon we're going to find out where we fit in. But I'm saying when you're talking, so the first thing to understand is if, when we're going to see that a Russia is there's hundreds of thousands of different levels of Russia. And we're going to find our place in the spectrum. But even if you're looking at a Russia that's, that someone that has very, very difficult challenges, just because you would say, oh, they're further along down the spectrum, but rather could look at them and say, wow, I'm standing on holy ground. This person, who can imagine what potential, what koiches he absolutely has. Okay, now the fact that he has these koiches, that's wonderful. But how can we help him? How can we help him bring it out? We could actually do something.
There's a Gemara that says that Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, and I don't know the lashon, that if it was up to him, no person would go into Gehenna. So it's not that they didn't sin, but if you look at where that sin came from, like what trauma they went through in their life, what like brought them to that, then there would be kulo zakai, because of, like you're saying, like the Rebbe said, to this, I don't have your challenge, because he's Malamed, that Reb Shimon Bar Yochai was able to be Malamed on every person, that no matter what he did, he looked into the potential of that neshama and what his difficulties were that brought him to those others.
Right. He's able to truly see the neshama and truly understand the person. Most of us can't do that, Okay. With his speech, Hashem brought everything into being. Since we are connected to Hashem, the living King, we too have a similar power. We can reveal and create with our words every hour. When a person speaks Lashon Hara, it harms three without a doubt: the speaker, the listener, and the one who is being spoken about. Although the one who is being spoken about is not presently around, his hidden negative traits are activated and found. So this is a question that a lot of Mefarshim ask. Lashon Hara harms three people. What is the person that you're speaking about? What did he do wrong? Like why should he be harmed if the person speaks and there's the speaker and the listener? But what about the third person? He's in a different country. He's in a different house. He's in a different place. Why is he shuldik? And the answer is because we have a power of speech that's similar to Hashem. Just like Hashem's words create and created the world, our speech could create and actually activate hidden negative traits that are inside another person when we speak about it. And if that's true in the negative, how much more so is true in the positive? By far, the opposite is true. There is so much that we can do. By speaking favorably, we can help another Jew reveal the powers that he has within so that he can overcome his challenge and fulfill his mission. So when we speak positively, when we speak positively, we're actually bringing out, we're revealing that potential that the person actually has. And once it's revealed, it will be so much easier for him to overcome his challenge. The word.
When you learn this, you just wish every principal, every Hanoah would have this type of attitude. Looking at the potential of the neshama.
100%. Okay. So I should really add another paragraph here just to tie it up. But basically what it's saying is, remember we asked the question in the beginning, why is that by the Talmud Chacham we say, you speak favorably about another Jew, and don't criticize him at all? Because when you have this attitude of speaking favorably about another Jew, and you actually say words and you say good things about him, then you're actually revealing his potential, and then the result is that there won't be anything to criticize at all.
Why don't we come with funny? Where do we come from?
Because, okay, so the Rebbe answers that at the end, and the Rebbe says that at the end, all of us are going to be Talmidei Chachamim, and therefore this applies to all of us. But this is officially a high level where you don't just judge favorably and say, oh, it's his place, okay, it's not his fault, but take a step higher, take it a step up. And not only not to blame him for it, but to actually say good things, to reveal the good, so that until you reveal so much good that he'll overcome his challenges and there won't be anything to criticize at all. And the reason why it's at the level of a Talmud Chacham is because sometimes a person falls so low, and you're like, you need to get creative to think of something positive to say. For example, there's two stories that go together. It was Reb Levi Yitzchak Berditchev. He saw a Yid eating, I don't know if it was treif on Yom Kippur. So he goes over to the Yid and he says, Reb Yid, maybe you don't know, today's Yom Kippur. So he says, I know it's Yom Kippur. He says, maybe you don't know that you're not allowed to eat on Yom Kippur. He says, I know that I'm not allowed to eat on Yom Kippur, but I'm eating anyway. So Reb Yitzchak Berditchev turns to Hashem and says, look at this Yid. He can't even lie. So sometimes you have to what merit could you find? What schus could you give the guy? He's eating on Yom Kippur and he knows that it's Yom Kippur. He knows he's not allowed to eat. There's a similar story about the Rebbe that his boy, a big troublemaker, he did so much trouble in school, and he came with his mother to the Rebbe, and the Rebbe asked him 3 questions. I don't remember all of them. The Rebbe asked him, "Are you a good boy?" And with all of his strength, he screams, "No!" And the Rebbe said, "Do you like to learn?" And he said, "No." And then a 3rd question, and the Rebbe turns to his mother and says, "Wow, look at this boy, he can't tell a lie." And when the child heard this, someone finally believed in him and looked at him with a good eye, and it completely transformed him. And he became a great kid. But it's sometimes you need a Talmud Chacham to actually find a good quality. So that's why it said, that's why the Rambam speaks about it when talking about Talmud Chacham, that you should speak favorably to such an extent that you won't have anything to criticize him at all. Okay, that's already at the level of a Talmud Chacham. Okay, here's 2 more short little points. So in the parsha it says, speak to the Kayanim, and then it says ve'amarta, emar la Kayanim ve'amarta. It says the word emar twice. So Rashi comes and says, why twice? So it's lahazir agdalim ala ktanim. So that the adult Kayanim should warn the younger Kayanim about how to behave. Okay, so on the words emar ve'amarta, Rashi does say that to do what is proper, the older Kayanim should warn the Kayanim that are younger. The word to warn is lahaz here, which comes from the word zohar, which means to shine. When it comes to education, we must bring out the light in our students all the time. So this word, there's lahaz here to warn, but rather, instead of coming and saying, no, you can't do this, can't do that, find a way to make the child shine. And at this Shabbaton where I was, so Mrs. Slavtitsky from Belgium, she was there, and she was describing that she had 6 children, and she was expecting her 7th, and then the 7th baby was a stillborn. And she was thinking about her children at home, and she said, when I get home, I'm not going to be shining windows anymore, but rather I'm going to make that my children's eyes should be shining. Instead of shining the windows, that the children's eyes should be shining. That's what she said. I'll leave it at that. Because sometimes you get, you get carried away. The house has to be so perfect, and rather that the kids should shine, that their eyes should be shining. The Rebbe Maharash's birthday is on Beis Iyar, which often falls out in the week of Parshas Emor. The Rebbe Maharash taught that when an obstacle is in our way, we shouldn't crawl under, but we should jump over it right away. When it comes to helping another Jew, we should act in a way of lechatchila ariber too. Lechatchila ariber means that when you have an obstacle, lechatchila, you should go ariber. Lechatchila, you should go above instead of going under. The world says if you have a challenge, first try to go under. Can't go under, then go over. But the Rebbe Maharash said, lechatchila, don't get yourself dirty, don't crawl on the floor. Lechatchila ariber, lechatchila, jump over. Instead of starting with fighting characteristics that are negative, we should start by speaking and bringing out characteristic traits that are positive. This way of speaking applies to me and you because the Rebbe says that in the end, every Jew will be on the level of a Talmid Chacham. Speaking favorably will surely make Mashiach come. Okay, so I'm glad I read it here because I know that I have to add something. But so I feel like this is the perfect introduction that when you're talking about a Russia, wherever you're talking about on whatever side of the spectrum, how the way to look at a Russia is, wow, they have so much potential, and let's speak favorably about them to bring out that potential until you'll have nothing to criticize at all. So that being said, we're going to talk about the Russia. Okay, it's only one chapter. It's not a long chapter because the focus of Tanya is not to dwell on the Russia or on where we are standing at the moment. The goal is to reach the level of a Beinani. Okay, so everything is so exact in Tanya, even the number of the chapter where the Russia is being spoken about is also exact. If I ask you what numbers in Yiddishkeit are significant in the realm of holiness, what would you suggest?
Like 7.
7. Okay, everyone says 7 first. Okay. 10, Asar Sedibres. 12 is a Bas Mitzvah, the 12 Shvatim.
And don't they say like 8 is the number that's like
Yeah, 8 a Bris Milah, Alman
and what
Dechateva.
number is not? 1 is Hashem. Like,
One is
what
Hashem.
like they will close, go to Echad Miyodea, like what number?
Yeah,
right?
okay, so
That's
Echad Miyodea, right? So the one number that you're like, how can I tie this into Yiddishkeit, which is number 11. What could you find positive about 11?
It's the 11 on your name.
What's 11? You know what it is?
The dream, Yosef's dream.
11 stars in Yosef's dream. You couldn't find anything better. You have 10, you have the 10 commandments, right? And 11 is 11 stars in Yosef's dream. What else could you find that's 11? It's pretty bad, right? 11. Yeah. So the fact that the Russia's chapter 11 is very telling. It's not so easy it's not such an easy number to connect to something spiritual in Yiddishkeit. However, there is something that's number 11, besides for the stars in Yosef's dream. Maybe we could change the song. And that is the Ketairas.
11 ingredients.
Had 11 ingredients. And one of the ingredients had a bad smell. But the halacha is that if you omit this ingredient that has a bad smell, then the person who prepared the ketores and the person who brings the ketores is chayav misa. So which means that this ingredient is crucial to the ketores. You cannot bring ketores without including this foul-smelling spice. And the lesson that we learn is that you cannot exclude a Russia from Bnei Yisrael. As a matter of fact, if the community wants to make a fast, the community wants to fast, maybe there's some kind of tzara, they want to make a communal fast. If you exclude the Risha'im, then it's not a communal fast. It also reminds me the Daled Minim that when we on Sukkot, the 4 kinds represent 4 different kinds of Jews. You know this? Mm-hmm. So if you're missing the Arava, which represents the Jew that neither learns Torah nor does mitzvahs, you can't make the bracha. And actually, it happened when I was in 10th grade for 4 years, from 9th through 12th. I would go with friends. I'm a Ftzayim in Park Slope. There were 15 Jewishly owned stores. And we'd go to every store on Friday. We would offer them Shabbos candles, offer them some brochures, what time Shabbos is. When it came Yantif, we would also bring them stuff for Yantif. One store. So when I was introduced to this route, I was a 9th grader and we went with 12th graders. There was one store that we knew you don't give them anything. You just say, Good Shabbos. You walk in, Good Shabbos, and walk out. That's it. I didn't know the history. I didn't know why. I didn't know what the story is. So it was 10th grade already. Now the 12th graders already went to seminary. So now we had to continue. We had to continue. And it's Sukkot time. And it was Chol Moed Sukkos. So my friends that I usually went with, some of them from out of towners, they weren't there. Anyway, there was one girl that came with me. And she also had to go get home before, to get home for Yantiv. So our time was a little bit limited. And this was the last store of the route. And it's a fabric store. And there's an elderly woman who runs the store. And this is who we just say, Good Shabbos, and we walk out. And we come to Halil and Esrig. And she was dealing with another customer. So the two of us stood in the corner of the store and just waited patiently. I don't know if we waited 5 minutes. I don't know if we waited 10 minutes. It seemed like we were waiting a long time. I don't know how long we waited. The customer left. And we approached her. And we said, this is a Lul of Esrig, it's Sukkot. Would you like the opportunity to make this blessing? Represents the unity of the Jewish people. That we need all types of people to make this blessing. And she listened. And she said yes. And she made the bracha. And you could tell that Baruch Atah Hashem K'nei Melech Haolam wasn't something so foreign to her. And that was it. She cried. And she did it. And from then on, she was super friendly. We could give her anything we wanted. Any brochure, matzah, hamantashin. She greeted us with a smile. Any coldness was gone. She was like a bubby. She's like our bubby, And this was 10th, 11th, 12th, fine. Then I went to seminary for 2 years. When I came back for Pesach, I don't know if it was after the first year of seminary, I don't know which year it was, I came back and she wasn't there. There was a girl there and with dark colored skin. So I said, oh, we used to come and we used to give this to the owner. She says, I'm the owner. I said, oh, we used to meet someone who was a little bit older. She said, that's my mother. So we were like, wow. And she says, oh, I'm half Jewish. So we told her, we said, you're 100%, anything we could tell you, you're 100% Jewish. And she said, yeah, I don't remember exactly the conversation, but our message to her was, you're 100% Jewish, we love you. And then after that, I got married and moved away. I never saw them again. But the point is, she must have told us the story. Basically, what happened was this woman, she intermarried, and her family was upset, They disowned her. And then after the father passed away, then the mother, was welcomed her again. And she was so turned off from Yiddishkeit because she wasn't accepted. And here I came with Lulav and Esther saying that we cannot do this mitzvah unless we have all Jews unite together. And that's what broke the ice for her to embrace Yiddishkeit again. The fact that the fact that this mitzvah includes everyone was so important to her. Doesn't matter the color, doesn't matter, that a Jew is a Jew is a Jew. So we can't have Klal Yisrael without a Russia. It's part, and we're going to define what a Russia is. We're going to redefine what a Russia is, but you can't just say, okay, just Tzaddik Beinoni and that's it. But the Klal Yisrael includes everyone. Everyone has to be included, and you can't have the Jewish people without this, without the Russia. Okay. So what is this Ketores? The Ketores is very interesting. When there was a plague in the desert, when the Yidden were in the desert, there was a big plague. And Hashem told Moshe to tell Aaron to take the Ketores and to run through the camp with it. And it stopped the Malach HaMaves in its tracks. So on one hand, the Ketores includes a negative ingredient. On the other hand, it's designed to reverse the negativity. The Ketores, which has a negative ingredient, that is what is used to get rid of the Malach HaMaves. Because only if you include the Russia in the mix do you have an opportunity to transform and elevate. If the concept of Russia was non-existent, then this concept of teshuvah, this concept of elevating the evil or transforming anything, it wouldn't exist. So it's part and parcel of our mission is that we have the Russia part. It's not something that we should. Oh, I wish it wasn't here, but rather it's part of the avodah. It's part of the mission. That yes, that part of the Klal Yisrael is the tzaddik, the Beinoni, and the Russia. The word Ketores is an Aramaic, is a Hebrew word, but it comes from, it's similar to, like a cousin language of Hebrew is Aramaic. And in Aramaic, the way to say a knot is ketira, which is similar to Ketores. So what happens is, kesher, in Hebrew, kesher is a knot. And in Aramaic, often the shin is exchanged for a tes or a tuf. So in Aramaic, the word kesher, which means a knot, how would I say it? I would say keter. Not with a kaf, but with a kuf. And this is what this concept of Ketores, this concept of a knot, of a kesher, this is what we titled the class. This is what the Russia represents. The Russia represents, yes, there's a rope. Yaakov Chevel Nachalase. Chevel is a rope. There's a rope between Yaakov, the Yidden, and Hashem. And sometimes we pull, and sometimes Hashem pulls, but sometimes the rope could get severed. But then in the place where the rope was ripped, you tie a knot, and then that part becomes the strongest. And that is the beauty of a Russia, that yes, temporarily they fall, maybe they're disconnected temporarily, but then when they reconnect, the connection to Hashem is so much stronger and the rope is shorter. Because when I tie it, it gets shorter, you get closer together. A carbon, we bring a carbon is karov, to become close. I can come close to you, but I'm not bound with you. Versus a rope, When you tie it, when you bind the two together, it's bound. It's a much stronger connection. So Ketores is much even greater than a carbon. And the Ketores is 11 ingredients, which represents the Rasha. The 11th represents the Rasha. We shouldn't write off the Rasha, but rather there's something so beautiful about the Rasha, because ultimately they end up being bound with Hashem versus a tzaddik who's close. It reminds me of a story that I heard this past Shabbos. Rabbi Tzeitlin from Montreal, who was a sheikhet, and he wanted to come to the Rebbe for bringing. I think it was Yud Beis Yud Gimel Tammuz, which is the day that the Frierdiker Rebbe was released from jail. So it's a big holiday in Chabad. He was going to drive from Montreal to come to the Rebbe's Farbringen, and he figured out he's going to try to be there by 3:15, which is when the Rebbe's minyan would have a mincha, to be there on time for mincha. So he's driving. He gets to 770. It's 3:13. He's so excited. He made it. He runs in. He sticks his hand in his pocket because he needs a gartel to daven. And he sees he doesn't have a gartel. The Rebbe's coming in 2 minutes. There's no, it was very, very punctual, and he doesn't have a gartel. And he really wants to have mincha with the Rebbe's minyan. He looks around, and with his eyes, he sees a friend. So he motions to him. I don't know what the motion was. A gartel. Like, do you have extra gartel? Do you have extra gartel? So the story was being said, for example, for Avos Yisrael. Avos Yisrael is not when I have two, I'll give you one. Avos Yisrael is when I have one, I'll still give you. So the friend took out his lighter from his pocket, and with his lighter, he burnt the gartel to make it into two. He throws him half of the gartel. And Rabbi Satan, now it's 3:15, he ties the gartel, however, the Rebbe comes in, and he was able to daven mincha with the Rebbe. And then he gave it back. Years later, Rabbi Zeitlin's son comes to New York, and he meets his father's friend, Rabbi Zeitlin Jr. He was our teacher you're also already passed. He was our teacher in seminary in Sfas. And he sees his friend wearing a gartel that has a knot. And he knew the story. He's like, why? Like, it's not like it's so much money to buy a gartel. This gartel, I'm wearing it on purpose. The gartel with the knot, that's his Avos Yisrael gartel, you know. It was so special to him. It's so special to him that this is the gartel that he had Avos Yisrael to share with someone else. He tied it back together, and this was the gartel that he wanted to use. So the concept is that if you fell in a certain area, now you're going to double your efforts in that area, and you're going to be doubly strong in that area, and that's the advantage of a tzaddik. That's a Baal Tshuva is even higher than a tzaddik. There was a lack of connection. Then there was a lack of connection. The rope got severed, and then you tie it together, and now there's an increased connection. Okay. And 11, see, 10 is a wholesome number. You have the 10 commandments, you have the 10 spheros. 10 is a perfect number. When you're talking about structures in holiness, it's the number 10. What's 11? 11 is even higher. 11 represents Keser. Before we said Keter, but it's now that I'm saying it, it's the same thing. Keser is a crown. We said Keter with a kuf is a knot. Right? The Kesher, Keter. We said that would be Kuf Tes Resh or Kuf Taf Resh. And now Keser, Chaf Taf Resh, is a crown. A crown is above a person. Keser represents Ratzon, represents will. So when the 11 is turned around, on one hand it's a negative ingredient, but once you transform it, right, then you could have that could save the people from the Malach HaMaves. So the same thing, when the 11 is a positive number, because 11 represents Keser, which allows access to godliness, which is even greater than the system.
Greater than what?
Greater than the system, because you have 10 spheres, that's the system, and above it is Keser, which is the crown, which is you're having access to something even higher than the system. Because Hashem is the one that creates all the systems, and Hashem is higher than it. Hashem is higher than the 10 spheres or the 10 koiches. So you could even reach a level 11, just like you have 7 and 8. You have 7 as days of the week, and then you have 8, which is even above it. Here you have 10. The 10 is the regular, ordinary, structure of holiness, and then you have 11, which is even higher than that. Okay. So the point of this chapter is not to label people or to label ourselves. Say, oh, I'm a Russia, so like there's no hope for me. But rather, the point of this parak is not to get caught up in where I am, but rather to have the tools to know who I could become. And we're striving to become a Beinoni. In the Mittler Rebbe's time, the Mittler Rebbe was after the Baal Tanya. In his time, there was the law about the Cantonists, that they would kidnap Jewish children, and they had to be in the army for like, I don't know, 15, 25 years. And the point was that they should forget their Yiddishkeit. So the Mittler Rebbe in a Maimer Hasidus, which it's not just a sicha. Maimer is considered deep, very deep Hasidus. That when a Maimer is said, everyone stands, and it's literally it's a very holy level of Hasidus coming down. And the Mittler Rebbe said in a Maimer, he asked, why would Hashem allow a soul to enter this world and then be ripped away from its society, from its community, and not have the opportunity to know what it is to be Jewish? Why would Hashem send the neshama down to this world, that they should be kidnapped and torn away from them for their Yiddishkeit for 25 years? And after 25 years, who knows? Who knows if they'll ever come back, if they'll remember their families, what will become of them? Why would Hashem do that? To bring a neshama down here and then not to give an opportunity to fulfill its mission? Why send a soul and then rob it of its opportunity? And the Mittler Rebbe says in this Maimer, Hashem will not allow a neshama to go to waste. Hashem will create an opportunity for this neshama to compensate what they lost and to catch up. Which means that at one moment, Hashem will give this neshama an opportunity to do something great. So great that what it takes us our whole lifetime to do, that they could do in a short time to complete their mission and to reach a level to reach their potential. So even if you see a Rasha, Hashem didn't just put a Rasha down here just to waste their time, but rather Hashem wouldn't put a neshama down here even to grow up in a home that's not a religious home for no reason, but rather there's no such thing as a neshama wasting their time. There's no such thing of Hashem just sending a neshama just to waste their time, but rather Hashem will give every neshama, even if it seems like they're a Rasha, the opportunity to reach their potential and to be who they really and to become who they really can be. Okay. Also, we have to realize that, like we said before, everything is in equal balance. Hashem created everything in an equal balance. So if Hashem created tzaddikim, Hashem had to create Rishaim also. If there were only tzaddikim, then this world wouldn't be. There has to be this balance. Just like Hashem gave the Yidin Moshe, and then to balance that, Hashem gave the Goyim Bilam. So just like we have a tzaddik, viralai, there's two levels of a tzaddik, there's two levels of a rasha. It's a mirror image. Everything is a mirror image. So first we're going to take the rasha who's on a higher level. Rasha v'toivlei. What does it mean? It means a rasha who has good in his system, but the good is under the sway of the bad. Just like the tzaddik viraloi, that is a tzaddik, and he's in full control of the evil, whatever evil is left. The same is with the rasha v'toivlei. It's a rasha who's in control of the good. So first of all, we have to realize that there's tens of thousands of levels of rasha. And there's three things that are not a condition. There are three things that are not an excuse and that you would be a Rasha. You can't use any of these excuses. Number one, you can't say I'm not a Rasha because I do a very, very small Avera that's very, very not serious. For example, once for a man, once in a while, I don't go to the minyan. You didn't hurt anyone. The minyan happened without you. So once in a while, I miss the minyan. So as soon as a person can't say, I do something so infrequently, so therefore I'm not a Rasha. The second you do something, even if it's once in a while, once in a blue moon, you're already in the category of a Rasha. For example, if I tell you that there's a person who once a month, he falls asleep when he's driving. Only once a month. So you say, once a month, I'm not driving with you. And then you say, once in 2 years, I fall asleep at the wheel. I'm not driving with you, right? So just because it's very infrequent, that there is very infrequent is not an excuse. It is not. Is not.
Is Russia though a grand label of a person, or is it like you said, like in this area someone could be a Russia, or in this moment someone could be a Russia, but in others, and I guess it feels so strong, like to take every single person is a Russia who hasn't committed a sin.
Right. So then we're going to talk about what a binani is, but just so as soon as a person does something that's very, very minor, it's very, very minor. You could say it's very infrequent, right? And then there's one more issue, and that is how it affected you. There's thought, speech, and action. I could say I do something, it's a very, very small sin. I do it once in a million years, and it only affects my speech. It only affects my mind. I only fantasize about it. I didn't even do it. I only opened the door for the thought. That you're already in the category of Russia. So now we're redefining Russia. A Russia could be someone your role model, your teacher, it's not just a person who's a murderer. A Russia is someone who doesn't have perfect control. As soon as you lose self-control, as soon as you're not in control.
Is there someone that can have perfect and in thought, speech, and action? I mean, not just that they're behaving, that their thoughts are 100%. Is that even like, I know it's just a strive to be that, but is that even like attainable?
So with thought is a very delicate topic. There's the thought that comes to your mind that you can't control, but to dwell on it. If I dwell on the thought, then it could even be worse than action. Like the story of the guy. Two guys are walking down the street and all of a sudden they hear, help, there's a woman that's drowning in the water, right? So one guy takes off his shtreimel, his black coat, he jumps in, he saves her, and they continue walking. 10 minutes later, the second yid says to the first yid, I can't believe you touched a woman who wasn't your wife. They said, I saved her and I left her by the water and I forgot about her. You're still holding her. Sometimes a thought is even worse than dwelling on something is even worse than action. So there's three categories. There's three things: how the severity of the sin, the frequency, and which part, thought, speech, or action, which part of the garments is it affecting? Now, if you touch any of them, then you automatically, that's a Russia moment. Doesn't mean you have to stay there. So now, that's what I'm saying. So now we realize that this category has so many levels, and maybe but the point of the class is not to say, oh, I'm a Rasha, forget it, but rather rather we're going to see that we're supposed to realize when we start learning about the Binani what we could become, the power to become, and the tools to reach this level of ability. For example, that our mind can rule the heart. The second you open the door, you say, okay, you could touch just the thought, you could touch just the speech, you could touch just the action. That's already in the category of a Russia. Okay, now this is very important. Do we have free will? In the first parak of Tanya, Eov says to Hashem, and it's a question in the first parak of Tanya, Barasa tzadikim, barasa rishayim. Hashem, you created tzadikim and you created rishayim. So if that's the case, where's my free choice? When Hashem created Moshe Rabbeinu, when he was born, the house was filled with light. He was born a tzaddik. We also ask this question, are you born into it, right? So he was born with tremendous potential to be a tzaddik. So, and we say all men are created equal, right? In the Constitution of no, that's not Torah's perspective. The Constitution of America says that all men are created equal, but Torah perspective is all men are not created equal. Maybe all men should be treated equally. You have to treat everyone in the right way, but we're not all created equal. Every single person is different. There's no two people that are the same. Everyone has different challenges. Everyone has different strengths. So there are some people that are wired and they're predisposed to be a tzaddik, and there are some that are predisposed to be a Rasha. It's easier for them. They're inclined to Rasha things, right? If a person is inclined to blood, they say, oh, be a tzaddik, be a male, be a sheikhet, be a doctor. There are some people that are inclined to blood, and some people run away from blood, right? So everyone has different inclinations. So what Eov says is true, that we may be born in the category of a Rasha. However, we have free choice within the category of a Rasha, that we have free choice. Should I stay here, or should I try to move away from it? And I said this also, if you purchase a home in a development and they have a swimming pool, and you have rights to the pool, but if the pool is dirty, are you going to sit in the dirty pool? You could, if you want to, or you could say, no, I'm going to get out and I'm going to find a membership somewhere else. So just because we find ourselves that we're struggling and that we're in this category where we don't have complete self-control, doesn't mean that this is where I have to stay. Okay. Now, when we're talking about, we shouldn't be labeling people. Say, oh, you lost self-control for 1 minute, now all of a sudden you're in the Russia category. Just like if I was to take all people and say, I'm going to divide all the humanity into 2 categories. Either you're healthy or you're not healthy. I could do that, but I'm not really getting a lot of information, because in the not healthy category, I could put a person who has a cold, and I could put a person who has a stage 4 Yanamachla. There's no comparison. So just because I say, oh, and it's actually not such a good idea, because it's not such a good idea because if I put all the unhealthy people in the same category, then a person who just has a cold could catch something from someone else who has something much worse. And the person who has a cold might be terrified. Oh my gosh, I see this person in ICU. Who knows that's happened to me? But there's so many levels within being healthy. And a person could say, oh, I'm 20 years old and I'm healthy according to the standards of someone who's 100. You don't want to be 20 with a health, with what a person who's 100 is considered healthy is different than a 20-year-old is considered healthy. So you can't just lump all the healthy people and all the unhealthy people together. In the same way, you can't just lump all these are Risham and these are Tzaddikim, because there's so many levels. Also, my friends. I could say I'm going to divide the whole world into people that are my friends and people that are not my friends. But even with that, I don't give you enough information. Because within my friends, there's all different kinds. And even if they're not my friends, there's all different kinds. Be someone who hates me, and there could be someone who's my doctor, who's my therapist, who's not my friend, So there's so many different levels. You could have, okay, we take the whole world and I'm going to divide into two groups. Someone who's law-abiding citizens and someone who are criminals, and the rest of the people that are criminals. And say, oh, for sure, I'm a law-abiding citizen. But again, you can't make that blanket statement and divide everyone into two because you can't compare someone a murderer to someone who went above the speed limit. So in the same way, not all Risha'im are on the same level. And also, another thing that distinguishes one criminal from another, or one Rasha from another, is your intention. One person could speed above the speed limit because he just touched and realized. And another person is doing it on purpose just to make the cops angry.
But the Oyman means in the Russian category, especially the softer title for the category.
Yeah.
Like Russia sounds, I guess, what we connotate with Russia is like an evil, horrible person.
Right. So we have to go away from that. You have to go away from that. Just like even tzaddik, we said, we redefined a tzaddik. A tzaddik is not every time my kid, shares with his brothers, he a tzaddik. We redefined that as well. So the tzaddik, Rasha, and Binani in Tanya is very different than what we're used to, for sure. And also, if you say, okay, fine, I'm so sorry. I went over the speed limit. I'm so sorry. I didn't have intention. But now, if you repeat that, if every single day you go over the speed limit, and I'm so sorry, I didn't mean it, then that's already a bigger offense. So there's so many things that go into play to figure out where on that where in the Russia spectrum are you. You have to look at the intention. You have to look at repetition. You have to look if it's minor, if it's major, if you just did something in the heat of the moment, or if there was a strategy here to if you thought into it. How frequently does the negative side get the upper hand, and how severely does it affect me when it does? Okay. And the thing with the Russia is that just like a person who alcoholic, right? So for 6 months they're clean. So you could have a person who's in the cat who says, look, for 6 months I would never lost control for 6 months. So you could already think that you're a Benoni. But then you always have to be vigilant because you don't know. It could be that you could fall again. So you always have to make sure that there isn't wine in the house or alcoholic beverage in the house to keep it up. So you have to actively work on it to keep it up. Sometimes we feel like a hypocrite. Sometimes I'm daven, I learn, I host a shir, I attend a shir, and then something else. I'm being pulled to something else. So don't get nervous, because we have to realize that just because I gave into a temptation, or I got distracted, or I was lazy or angry, don't be too harsh on yourself. You're not a loser. Because so the Yetzer Hara, one, this either machshava or dibur or ma'aseh, one part, but it doesn't mean that I'm completely terrible and bad. It was something that was infrequent, not so severe, and just touched one part, but doesn't mean that I'm no good. Me, completely. It could be that the Yetzer Hara latches on or has power over just one element or one part of me, but so we shouldn't be so harsh on ourselves. Sometimes I could do something wrong, And I could do something wrong, but in my head, I know that it's wrong. I know that I shouldn't be doing it. So the Yetzer Hara is only, or the Nefesh, animal soul, is only affecting my action, not my thoughts, because I know that it's wrong. And sometimes I have the self-control and I don't do the action, but in my mind, I wish I could be doing it. So in that case, the Yetzer Hara is affecting my mind, but not my action. So we have to realize this is part of the struggle. This is part of being in the Russia category. That it's okay that I see the hypocrisy. You could have a big Talmid Chacham, and like what's going on? That all of a sudden, it's okay. This is what it means to be a Russia. That sometimes the Yetzer Hara could hijack a part of me, but it doesn't get me fully. When it comes to how do I know if something is major or minor? So it's not about me, it's not for me to decide what's major or minor, because we have to look into Torah and see what Torah says is a major sin or a minor sin. One way of knowing which is not 100% accurate is this something I wouldn't want anyone to know, or is this something that we all do? But even that is not a good measuring stick, because sometimes something that we all do is could be very severe. For example, like speaking Lashon Hara. Okay, so we spoke about action, right? Is it major or minor? Now we're going to speak about speech. There's Lashon Hara, right? Speaking of Lashon Hara, so we know that if the Yetzer Hara hijacks my speech, okay, that would be in the Russia category. But Lashon Hara is like a big rock. Then there's something called Avak Lashon Hara. If I would take this big rock, and the rock would be eroded, and there'd be dust from this rock. So the same thing is with Lashon Hara. There could be something called Avak Lashon Hara, the dust of Lashon Hara, which is also much, much less, but it's also in the category of Russia. For example, if a person says to you, "Oh, isn't Shayna so amazing? It's Shayna, she's so amazing," and you just give a facial expression like, "Oh, I don't think she's so amazing." Just a facial expression it could already be Avak Lashon Hara. It's not Lashon Hara. You didn't say anything, but you did something to show that, no, I don't really agree with you, or that person's not as good as you think. That's Avak Lashon Hara. And the same thing is Leitzanus. Leitzanus is to pour cold water. Someone's so inspired, oh, what a great miracle, and he's pour cold water. No, it wasn't such a great miracle. It's natural. That's Leitzanus. Leitzanus is not a good thing. That's Leitzanus, would definitely be in the category of a Russia. But then, Leitzanus again, there's lots and lots of levels. Someone could make a speech and everyone is like the edge of their seat so inspired, and then someone will just bring another proof to knock it or whatever it is. So we're just trying to show that in action there's all different levels, from minor to severe. In speech there's all different levels. You could have actually speaking Lashon Hara, and you could have just a facial expression that's already puts into the category of Russia. And then in thought, thinking about a sin in a way is even harsher than the sin. The thought, because my thoughts are the most sensitive area of my life. Just like we said this in the past, that if a person, you can't compare schmutz in the bottom of your the mud. If you stepped in mud, you can't compare that to if a person is having brain surgery and a speck of dust goes inside their brain. The brain is so much more sensitive. So even we say, listen, I didn't do any Aveira. I didn't do an Aveira. I didn't speak Lashon, not my mouth, I didn't do anything. I didn't say anything bad, but just thinking, dwelling on fantasizing about something that you can't do, that also would already put you into the Russia category. Okay, so we're going to stop here today. To be continued, hopefully just one more class and that's it for this parak. But basically, we're saying that a Russia is not a murderer. It's not this big, scary, robber, but rather a Russia is someone who, even if they do a minor Aveira very infrequently, and even if it just affects only one part of them, thought, speech, or action, to already in the category of a Russia, but it's not to the point is not to make us feel stuck and feel bad about ourselves, but the point is that we're going to learn tools of how to master. Oh my gosh, 11 pages. That's cool. How to have that self-control in thought, speech, and action. And that is what a Beinoni is. A Beinoni is someone who does master and does have control, thought, speech, and action. And we do have, as we're trying to get as many Beinoni moments as possible, which we will learn about. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
See, there is being only moments. It's not about becoming the perfect. I guess I'm black and white. And I'm like, which category am I in? You're saying,
Right.
there is room to slowly increase the Benoni part, which obviously I'll never be a full Benoni, but
100%. There was a little boy, and his uncle was a very big chassid who was coming for a visit. So the boy says to his uncle, he says, are you a Benoni? So how did the uncle answer him? He said, tell the little kid, go bring me a Tehillim. So the child brings a Tehillim. He says, could you read this parak of Tehillim? And the kid reads the parak of Tehillim. And the uncle says to him, when you read the parak of Tehillim, were you fighting with anybody? No. Were you thinking anything bad? No. So when you were saying this parak of Tehillim, you were a Benoni. Okay, now to keep it up for the next second, that's another story. But I'm saying, and a Benoni at that moment, they're so close to Hashem that they're so close that Avera is so far, like they're so connected and so committed at this very moment that they're sure that the next moment will be a Benoni moment as well. So obviously we're here to work, and obviously it's a journey, and we're progressing slowly but surely, but also on a very important thing, which is why we started with this poem, with this Sicha, Parshas Emor, is that it's so important. It's so important to speak favorably and to find the good in everyone and speak about it and reveal it, because we do have the potential to do more than we believe that we can. We think we can only reach here, but when other people speak good, speak favorably, it actually unleashes and activates more power, that we could actually have more Benoni moments than we think we could. So last class, I started off and I said when I first got married, all I could do was make grilled cheese and scrambled eggs. That's it. And I was living a few blocks away from my parents. So like all my other friends, just go to my parents for dinner. It's the easiest thing. Who wants to start cooking? Make dirty dishes, making the dishes dirty, And I made dinner one night, and it was burnt chicken and burnt something else. And I said to my husband the next day, I was like, okay, so do you want to go to my parents for dinner? And he said, Hani, the dinner that you made last night was delicious. Now, he believed in my cooking abilities more than I believed in them. And because he said that, where do you think we had dinner that night? I obviously made my own dinner, right? So, and the end was that we went to my parents once a week. We went on Tuesday nights because they had the best cheese blintzes and salmon. I love cheese blintzes and salmon and couscous, broccoli, whatever. I said that was milchik supper. My house was Tuesday night. So Tuesday night we went to my parents. But every other night, besides for Shabbos, I cooked, because he believed in my cooking more than I believed in it. Also for this Tanya class, 8 years ago, Esty Meisels asked me to teach Tanya. And I said, no. I said, I can't do it. I said, it's impossible. It's too hard. But between her and my husband's encouragement, I didn't think I could do it. I really honestly didn't think I could do it. I said I could teach Rosh Chodesh Society, which was a program prepared by the Jewish Learning Institute that's prepared, ready-made classes prepared. I said, I'll teach about the Parsha, I'll teach about the holiday. I said, no, it has to be Tanya. But sometimes when there's someone that believes in you and says, you can do this, and talks good and activates, it literally activates the potential they would never ever know. So the point of the teaching of the Parshas Emor, and the point of this parak of Tanya is not that we should say, oh, I'm a Rasha, let me give up now, but rather we have the potential to be a Benoni. We do have that potential. and by speaking favorably about ourselves, even about ourselves, not to put ourselves down. I can't, I can never, I could. Sometimes I even just stand in front of the mirror and say, I could do this. And I went on Sunday, Shafin Shabbaton, I went from Connecticut to this gown place in Rockaway. My kids came from Tom's River. We met. We actually on the way to Rockaway, on the way to this gown, I was driving the small van, they were driving the big van, and we met like while we were driving. Like I was in front of them, and they'd be going in front of me. Like we were like waving the whole time, whatever. And we come to this gemach place, and one of my kids, like, she's always like, finds negative and everything, and she's like, "Oh, there's nothing here, la la la." And I was after just learning this teaching, but just the concept of positive. I said, I was not taking it. I was like, there are so many beautiful gowns here, and you're such beautiful girls, and whatever you're gonna wear is everything here will be stunning on you. It's a whole different. It's a whole different world. I didn't let her negativity. I was like, no, we didn't just drive here for so many hours just for you to no, but to not, you see someone, to the praise, and the not just praise just for a compliment, but to really find the true, really find true wonderful qualities about each person, and it really activates the potential that we really could be who we're meant to be, and really have more moments than we think that we actually believe that we could. We have to believe in ourselves, believe in our spouse, believe in our children, believe in our community, believe in every single yid. And when a person has a challenge, instead of saying, oh, okay, I can't blame you, I have to judge you favorably, but to say, no, there's power here that I could help activate, I could help reveal, until we'll come to a place that there'll be no criticism at all. Until we come to a place where we're all Talmidei Chachamim, and we're all Beinanim. And we could do it. We could do it. We could do more than we think. Okay.
Thank you so much.
Sure.
I feel bad. My book had a client, and I just